She chooses Xiao Huayong as a husband partly because he's sick and probably won't live very long. To her, that means one very important thing. He seems manageable. Cold? Absolutely. But after finishing Blossoms of Power, I started thinking that choice explains Shen Xihe better than almost any love confession that comes later. She doesn't enter this relationship looking for someone to complete her life. She's looking for someone who can't take control of it away from her. And that's exactly why what happens next matters so much. And yes, full spoilers from here. It's easy to watch Shen Xihe from the outside and see a female lead who's cold, calculating, and almost impossible to read. But think about where she's coming from. Gu Qingzhi loses her entire family, takes her own life, and wakes up in Shen Xihe's body after Shen Xihe herself had just been betrayed and left to die. That's not exactly the kind of story that teaches someone to trust first and ask questions later. When Shen Xihe arrives in the capital, her response to danger isn't to look for comfort. It's to make sure she's never left without options again. And suddenly her coldness starts to look less like a lack of emotion and more like a way of staying in control. You can see that perfectly in the way she approaches marriage. For Xihe, choosing a husband isn't some romantic fantasy. It's a political decision and a personal one. She has to think about the Northwest, her own safety, and how much power this man could eventually have over her. So she offers Huayong something very specific, an alliance, not her heart. But then Huayong does something she probably doesn't expect. He finds a boundary and doesn't try to break through it. When he realizes there's something strange about the connection between Xihe and Gu Qingzhi, he asks. She doesn't answer, and he doesn't force her to. He makes it clear that being her future husband may give him the right to support her. It doesn't give him the right to enter every part of her mind that she chooses to keep private. For a woman whose survival depends on controlling who knows what about her, that's huge. He doesn't get closer by tearing down her defenses. He gets closer by respecting the fact that they're there. And that's when Huayong becomes a problem Xie never planned for, because he was supposed to be useful, predictable, safe. Then she learns just how much he risked his own health to get the medicine she needed, including going into the extreme cold for her. And her reaction is small, which for Shen Xihe means a lot. She's deeply affected. The next day, when Huayong takes her hand, her heart starts racing, and she leaves, visibly flustered. No huge confession, no instant personality change. For the first time, the problem isn't that Xie has lost control of the situation, it's that she can't completely control her own reaction to him. And episode 13 makes that even more interesting. She's honest with him. She doesn't love him romantically yet. Huayong doesn't demand anything more. He just asks her to tell him if her feelings ever change. Remember that, because the drama is going to come back to it. By episode 28, Huayong gives Xihe something far more meaningful to them than flowers or jewelry. He gives her the confidential list of his allies at court. He takes information tied directly to his own political power and puts it in her hands. And then Xihe answers with something equally dangerous, the truth. She finally opens up about Gu Qingzhi and the part of herself she spent so long protecting. And then she comes back to that earlier promise. Her feelings have changed. She loves him. This is the moment their romance stops being about Huayong trying to get closer and becomes about Xihe choosing to let him. And I think that's the key to understanding her. She doesn't show love in the most obvious way. With Xihe, emotion often shows up as a decision before it shows up anywhere else. Huayong gives her political trust, she gives him personal vulnerability. He puts his power in her hands, she puts something she spent the entire story protecting in his. And then we get to the ending. Remember the woman who initially saw Huayong as a suitable husband, partly because she believed he might not live very long? After believing she has lost him, we see a very different Shen Xihe. Years later, she's looking at his portrait and speaking lovingly about him to their son. To her, Huayong was a perfect man. Then she catches a familiar scent, Tagara, his scent. And this might be my favorite part of her entire arc, because Xihe doesn't investigate, she doesn't test it, she doesn't calculate, she just runs. At the beginning, she chooses a man because she believes she can control the risk of having him in her life. At the end, when she realizes he's alive, control is the last thing on her mind. She runs to him. And maybe that's why Shen Xihe makes so much more sense when you look at the story from her point of view. She never had to stop being cold to love Huayong. She just had to reach a point where she no longer felt like she needed to protect herself from him. And if this is your kind of C-drama conversation, subscribe and stick around. But tell me this, did Shen Xihe feel too emotionally distant to you? Or was that restraint exactly what made her transformation work?